All right, class 11. I'm laughing because I told a bad joke that was not included if it was really bad. Okay, anywho, Socrates, as I was just talking to the class about singling in on definitions, Socrates is always about what do you mean by that? We had the pre-class discussion on what does it mean to be X? Is Trump really X? And I wanted to know what X is. What is X? How do you make definitions? Which we are in metaphysics right now. None of you in this class have seen the last video where we went from epistemology to metaphysics. Because it's not up yet. Because it was interrupted 3 times and the video's all in chunks. So I'm gonna have to put it all together or give you 3 videos. And so I'm gonna try to do that today, okay? Who's keeping up with this pretty well? Are you? So. Let's hear it on video. What's going on?
What do you want to know?
Are you able to access the videos up to number 9?
I've been able to access the videos, yeah.
You've seen them all?
No, I haven't seen them all.
Well, you don't have to. You're there for half of them.
Yeah.
Right? But the ones you haven't been, you've seen them. Are they working?
Yes.
And you're learning? How about you? Good? Good for you too? You? So far so good? No complaints? You saw the tests that got added? All of your grades have been graded?
Well, the essay I submitted Tuesday night, not Tuesday at 12 a.m.
When's the last time you checked your grades?
I haven't checked them.
Okay.
I emailed you about
Today?
Yesterday. Or the
Check
day
your grades.
before.
Tell me if they're not there. You guys check all your grades. Go ahead, sir.
The same thing. I emailed you, what was it? Like midnight.
Okay. Send me a quick reminder and I'll go check, but check your grades first. I might have added it anyway, okay? It just depends. All your grades are in?
Yeah.
Okay. So, very good. Bueno. All right. So, one of the things I want you to do is keep up on the videos. Make sure you look at the content where the videos will be. Keep up with the announcements. The announcements will always tell you if there's a video and an assignment. Where will the assignments be if there is an assignment? In the content, okay? And I'll put an announcement up, okay? Has anybody missed anything that you know of? Okay, now anybody who has missed anything will be on video, okay? Okay, now I want to tell you something. We were starting out with a conversation. We asked a question about, I zeroed in on a definition about a debate that I felt was, I didn't like it. I mean, I agree with you on that. I mean, it says, and I said, after all that, I said, if we take this and look at how philosophy works, how Socrates did things, he always wanted to define things. Now, if you watch the last video, you'll notice we had gotten into metaphysics, so I'm just going to continue there. And I'm going to start off with giving you the 5 types of is. Okay? The 5 types of is. Now, to give you context, what does metaphysics discuss? Metaphysics discusses the world. And what do I mean by that? I mean things that exist. Everything that exists, not just the universe. We're talking, you have 3 options. You have everything is physical, we call the naturalism, watch the video, it's on there. If everything is non-physical, we call that, that worldview, we call that idealism, that is from the world of the ideas, and we can know that through Plato, okay? And then you have the world of metaphysical realism, which holds that both physical and non-physical things exist. Okay, that there's some aspect of reality that's physical and some aspect that is non-physical. So when we start talking about, you know, the world and what it's made up of, we often use the word is. A is B. Right? And the word is can be used in 5 different ways. And so I'm going to give you 5 ways in which the word is can be used. And let's start with the first is, the is of existence. The is of existence. A is. It's merely just to say it exists. It just is. God is. When God spoke to Moses, right? Moses approaches the burning bush and says, "Whom shall I say sent me?" Right? When God is telling him to go lead the people out of Egypt, and he says, "Whom shall I say sent me?" Keep in mind the context of that conversation, the cultural context. Egypt had many gods. So which God shall I say sent me? And he says, "Ego eimi, I am that I am." And in this case, he doesn't say is, he says am. But it is that is of existence. I am the one that exists. God is. God exists. This is in opposition to the other gods, the false gods of Egypt, that are mere idols that do not exist. God exists. The is of existence. It's merely just stating existence. Second, the is of identity. The is of identity. A is B. This is saying, if I say A is B, what I'm saying is A and B are the same thing, that the word A or the referent A refers to the same thing, object, that the referent B refers. So if I say the morning star is the evening star, I have the referent morning star, the name, and it refers to the same object as the word or referent evening star, I should say term. Okay? Now what does it mean for A to be identical to B? Means that A has all the same essential properties that B has, and B has all the same essential properties that A has. Now I use the term essential because there's a reason for that, okay? Clearly, if the morning star is identical to the evening star, clearly there's something that is different about them. One is being seen in the evening and one is being seen in the morning. It's the same star, it's identical to itself, but there's an external relation to the viewers that is different. Okay? Now, how do you tell if something's different? That A is not identical to B. That they have different properties. We talked about properties yesterday, or the day before yesterday. Properties are things like hardness, color, shape, size, location, relation, taller than, shorter than, before than, after than, under than, on top of. Okay? Descriptors. Okay? The wall is white. White is a property. And white has a property. What is the property of whiteness? Color. Okay? White is identical to the color that is on the wall, right? White is the color on the wall. So the color on the wall is white, and not this in this case. I'm just saying A is identical to B. Now, if the color on the wall is different than white, then of course they are not identical, right? White is not identical to the color on the wall. So you have the is of identity. Well, you have the is of existence, the is of identity. All right, the third one, the is of constitution. The is of constitution. The is of constitution says A is identical to, not identical to, constituted of the things that it's made up of. The table is wood and metal, right? It's those parts. It's what the thing is made up of. Not identical to, but made up of. Blood and guts, right? Humans are body and soul. The shoes are leather and rubber. The is of constitution, right? The cup is plastic and metal. Does that make sense to you? Nothing weird about that? Now, this is very important to conversations about reality. All of these, especially the next two. The is of accident, no, let's go with the essential predication. The is of essential predication. The is of essential predication. An essential predicate is something that has to be there for a thing to exist, and if it is not there, that thing does not exist. An essential predicate is something that has to be there for that thing to exist. And without it, that thing does not exist. Whatever property that is, we can call that an essence, okay? What has to exist for a cow to be a cow? And without that thing, you do not have a cow. You have something else. What has to be there for you to be there? So, well, I'm going to contrast that with this here. The is of accidental predication. Write it down. That's the next one, by the way. That's number 4, I think, right? Or is that 5?
This is the 5th one.
5th one, okay, good. Accidental predication. The is of accidental predication. The is of accidental predication says there are properties that may be possessed by a thing that can be lost, and that thing remains the same. Thing, that is. It remains the same thing. Why do I say that? Okay. So, for example, when I was younger, I had more hair. And as time has gone on, I've lost hair. And so, am I a different person because my hair is different? No. I have maintained Shannon, or Dr. Holzer in this case, or professor, or whatever you want to call me. Those are all just reference terms to refer to an object. Is, that's the key word, the guy who has a lot of hair on his head, right? And then all of a sudden, next day I come in with my head shaved. Did the professor cease to exist? No. I've remained the same person, though I have changed an accidental predicate. Next day I grew hair. Allegedly, perhaps. And I did not change my identity. However, the essential predication, Dr. Holzer, is Shannon, and I'm not talking about the name or whatever. And let's say, pray to God doesn't happen, get smacked by a truck and die, and my soul is separated from my body. I'm no longer Shannon here now, am I? You can look at that body and go, yeah, he's gone. Right? Something essential is gone. Is he still a human and maybe a cadaver? But what about personhood? What's missing? Now, we have types of definitions. And when we talk about definitions, we have different types, and there are 2 types I like to focus in on. Nominal definitions. I'd write this down. And these are testable things, so if I say it, you can almost guarantee quiz question, okay? And they're essential definitions. There are different types of definitions. We'll talk about those as well, but these two are important to me today. They're important to me anyway, but they're important. Who's taking logic in here? If you haven't taken logic, I highly suggest it. Logic will help you clear up make you a lot more skeptical in one way and a lot more thoughtful, and it'll make you also a lot more knowledgeable, because that which you do believe is more likely to be true, okay? But you may believe a lot fewer things, but the things you do believe, you may have a little more certainty in them. Definitions of this sort. Nominal definitions talk about the word. So some people will talk about God in a nominal sense, and they're just talking about the word God. God can be used in many different ways. God to you may be, used as a deity that you pray to and gives you things. And God to me means my money and my job. Some might say, I don't know. You can say that, but now you're just talking about nominal definitions. You're just talking about a word. In the essential definition, we want to know what the object is that we talk about when we talk about use the word. So I could use an object and then I give it a word. And whatever that object is, we are very specific about it. And if that object is not there, the definition is not there. The word should not be used. This was a very big debate when it came to marriage. The word marriage can be used in many ways. It can be used when we talk about bringing two objects together. I wedded the screw to the bowl or to the nut, and the one part to the other, and they were placed. And in that regard, we're talking about just bringing things together, okay? We wedded the ideas. They brought the two ideas together and compared them to. Okay, fine. Right? And they were married. We married these ideas. Marriage. But when we talk about marriage, like holy matrimony, and we want to define, we say, what is this relationship between this man and woman who have taken vows before God as a sacrament or a covenant? And the goal has been to create a naturally occurring family through the conjugal act, right? We will call that marriage, okay? And then a man and another man come up and say, well, we want to be married too. And you say, so what you're saying is you want to be a man and a woman who, when brought together in a natural act, create a child. And they say, no, we want to be called a marriage. See the difference? One is the nominal definition, using the nominal term, that is, using the term that could now be used for a man and a woman, and perhaps another female and female or whatever. Okay? One started with the couple, a man and a woman, with the procreative act, and said, what are we going to call this thing here? Okay? And if that is not it, if A is not the same thing as B, then we should not call them the same thing, right? You would call one, what do you call a man and a woman in a natural relationship that has children, naturally? What should we call that? And then what do you call a man and a man relationship that does not create that naturally? Do you call them the same thing? You can, but are those two objects the same thing? So this is where definitions become very important, because you want to be what's called, listen to the word here, and I'd write it down, univocal. What does it mean to be univocal? It means that you use the appropriate term when you're speaking to somebody, that you and I, when we use the term a, we both understand its meaning. And have that in mind when we converse. That way, there is no confusion. So if I were saying to somebody, so you believe men could be married, and if you know that what I mean by married is a man and a woman in a relationship of a certain type that creates natural offspring through a natural procreative act, you would say, well, no, men and men cannot be that. Okay? But if what I meant, if you said men and men could be married, and what you mean is a legally endorsed relationship by the government, you see the difference in definitions there? The two definitions are completely different. Then of course men and men could be married in that regard. Then you're just talking about a legal institution. You're not talking about a metaphysical reality. The problem with our debate here, which we had a nice little one before the video started, centers around definitions. What does it mean to be this? And that is why the 5 is will become very important to you in the very most basic questions about life. Now, when I use the word are, like A-R-E, I am also using that interchangeably with the word is, okay? If I say they are, it's, in a way, I'm using, I guess, the plural of is. I'm not going to say they is, and I'm not going to say what is you, right? Because if I say what are you, you're not going to say, well, I are this. You're going to answer I am, right? Or what is he? You'll say he is. But point being, those 3 words, am, are, is, will be used interchangeably. And we want to know which meaning we have to what reference. An essential predicate, an accidental predicate, one of identity, one of existence, and one of constitution. So let's ask some of the basic questions. As basic as it gets before we start accusing people of being A. What are you? What are you? Write that down. What am I? What am I? What do I have to be the type of thing I am? And what do I have to be who I am in that type of thing? And there are several things you can say what I am. Make a list of them. What am I? Just make a quick list of some of the things you are. You might need to switch your sides of the paper because you look like you're out.
I'm almost.
I'm going to give you about a second here. And I'm going to talk a little more because from there we're going to go to who am I, and there's a difference between what and who I am, right? What makes me different from everybody else, and what makes me identical to myself? When did I become me? Can I ever cease to be me? Can I be somebody else? Have you ever asked the question, I wish I was her or him? Have you? You have? You wished yourself dead and replaced by somebody else? Is that what you did? Metaphysically, if you see what I'm getting at
Yeah,
here.
metaphysically.
You realize you've wished for your own demise and
Yeah,
the
of course.
replacement of, but you didn't mean that, did you?
No.
No, you didn't. You weren't asking for the essential properties of yourself to be exchanged with the essential properties of somebody else. You were asking for the accidental properties of somebody else to be applied to you, such as I wish I had this guy's great looks. I wish I had this guy's money. I wish all the females that this guy has crawling all over him were crawling all over me, right? Yes, you did, because you're a man. Okay? Now, I'm sure other men may have other desires, but that is a common one amongst men, especially men of my ilk when I was young. When I was like, what's with all the girls? Why don't they like me? Right? What's with that guy? I didn't wish to be them. I wished to be like them. I wanted accidental properties, not essential properties. Okay? What did you guys get? What did you write down? What are you?
Human.
Human, yeah. You went for something basic, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I want you to start with, right? Are you human?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm pretty sure you're human too. You could be an alien. You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. You're from Texas.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So, not all aliens are from out of the country. They could be from, like, Colorado too. So, tell me something. What does it mean to be human?
I think to have the essential properties of a human.
Very good, thank you. That's an awesome answer, especially since we just went over that. What are the essential properties of humanness?
I guess like organs.
Organs? Which organ?
All of them?
All of them?
Yeah.
All right, let me give you a quick story here. My buddy, he was like, the day my daughter was born, I called him and said, hey, anyway, I just got a new daughter. He's like, oh, that's great news. How you doing? He's like, oh, boy, I'm in bad shape. I said, really, what's wrong? He says, I can't tell you because if you Google it, then you're going to freak out. I said, well, now I'm really going to freak out. He says, yeah, it's pretty bad. I might have like a month to live. I'm like, oh my God, my best friend's got a month to live. Oh no. Well, anyway, it turns out, he had a little longer than that. He's still alive, okay? He had to get his spleen removed. His spleen was like as big as a pancake.
Oh boy.
I know, but they didn't know what was wrong with him at the time, and they thought he had some thing that was going to kill him. Are you telling me he's no longer human because he doesn't have all of his organs?
Essential organs.
What's essential?
The organs that.
Like a heart? Can you get I know a guy got a baboon heart. Is he no longer himself?
Of course, he's still himself.
So hearts aren't essential?
They are essential, which is why he still has a heart.
Okay, but now he's another thing then.
No.
Well, he changed it. Essential parts.
He has a different heart, but it's still
So
essential.
he has the heart. He's not the heart.
He is not the heart.
So I want to know what it means to be human. If I am human, right? Is that just part of me? Or is that like imagine the triangle. If I took away the triangle shape, would it still be a triangle?
Whoa.
No, it would not exist. There'd be no shape, right? An essential property of being a triangle is having shape. Now, I said the triangular thing is green. If I painted the triangular thing, whatever that may be, red, it'd still be a triangle, right? That's not essential to its triangularity. The third side sure is, correct? If I added a fourth side, would it be? No, it'd now be a square, right? What if I wanted to call a square a triangle?
You'd be wrong.
No, I mean, I just changed the word now. Because there's a difference between the word and the object. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a distinction today called the de re versus Dedicto Distinction. It'll remind me of that in just a little bit. It'll be on the, but the de re has to do with talking about the object. Dedicto has to do with talking about the word. okay, the nominal definition. So when we're talking about the word, I can call this table a mesa, right? No change in the object. What else can I, la table, that's French, right? I think so, it's sur la table, I guess, right? You go to the store, maybe, I don't know, I could be wrong, making things up as I go along. I'm pretty sure mesa is a table, okay, I've taken at least one class of Spanish. Those are three words referring to the same object. So calling it triangle a square, I mean, maybe wrong on a test, but I mean, that's just force, right? But if you and I both agreed, we're gonna start calling triangular things squares now, I mean, and every time I see something like that with three objects, we call it a square, you gotta be communicating, correct? We could be univocal, at least between ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense? Okay, so there's a difference between the word and the object. I always want us to remind us of that. What are you essentially, apart from words, right? That if we take it away from humanity, what is it that you will not, that this is no longer human?
Mind, body, or soul?
Maybe? Body though?
Yeah.
What's a body made up of?
I mean, it's made up of
Starts with S and ends with L's.
cells.
Yeah, pretty
Oh,
good.
yeah. Human cells.
Human cells. What are human cells? What's the difference between human cells and bovine cells?
Exactly.
Deoxyribonucleic acid.
Oh, deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
The DNA is different.
So what's the difference? What is DNA made up of?
It's made up of
Like cells,
cells.
I guess. I don't know. Let me
Something.
break it down, but it goes down to atoms, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you move it up into the chemical realm, and then all of a sudden, what is it about bovine and human that are different? I mean, at what point do atoms turn into a species of animal? Is it merely just the shape?
It's not just the shade.
What is it? I don't know. I'd like to talk to a chemist and a molecular biologist about this.
Yeah, I'm neither of those.
But what magical happens that they change, that just merely the shape turns into cow versus human? And then of course they'd say, well, that's clearly bovine DNA. But what is it about that DNA that does it say B on there for bovine?
No.
And one says H, human? No, that's not it. It isn't, right? It's something else. But what is it, right? Aristotle would have called these things essences. There's this essential property that we have that makes us, you have cow essences, you have human, the essence of humanity. And I talked about this in the video, but you didn't know. How do you know what yellow is?
Because we perceive it to be yellow.
Yeah, you perceive yellow, right? Can you define yellow for me? Besides saying it's a color?
Not really.
No. How does a blind person know what yellow is?
They don't.
They don't. How did you learn what yellow was? And by yellow, I don't mean the word. Like when I study Spanish and I go amarillo, okay, that's a word. I want to know what that word refers to. How did I learn the color amarillo?
I was shown a specific color and I was told that it was yellow.
And then you were right, so turn around. Point to the yellow.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if I wanted to learn yellow, do I go, oh, folder? Okay, it's a folder. It's a thing you
No.
put. No, oh, it's not. So then you would do what? You would point to other things that are yellow, which I can't see anything else in here, but you would point to them and you just word. And then I'd abstract from it that thing called yellow. And yellow is this simple property. I mean, you can say it's a color, but that doesn't mean anything to a blind person. Just like radar doesn't mean a whole lot to me. It's like, what's it like to be a bat? I don't know what it's like to be a bat. I'm a human. Okay? So how do we do this? It's through ostension. And you learn these simple properties. How do you know what humanity is? Do all humans share the same shape?
No.
We don't. Do all humans look alike?
For the most part,
For the most part?
yeah.
Do we?
Yeah.
You look like a 90-year-old man?
No, but I don't look like an ape.
Do you look like a three? Well,
I
you're
don't look
closer
like.
to it.
I don't
Well,
look
it
like
depends
a
on
whale.
what level of development you're at.
Yeah.
So,
I look-
here was a question.
I
Here's one
look
of the
like
questions
a
I asked you.
20-year-old.
When did you become a human?
Whenever I was conceived.
Conceived. You look a lot different than the day you were
For
conceived.
sure.
What did you look like the day you were conceived?
I was.
A two-celled individual?
Yeah.
Two-celled thing?
Had my
Complete
own-
set of DNA.
Yeah, had my
Unique
own-
from your parents. Totally different. Did you have eyeballs?
Not yet.
Did he have a brain at the time? And did he have the essential organs? Did you have any organs?
Not yet.
Now I want you to take note of what I'm saying. Did you have? That presupposes you were you at conception, which you just said, okay? That's fine. Were you a human at conception?
Well,
You said,
How do you
I am a
define-
human, right?
how do you define?
Well, isn't that what we've been trying to do?
Yeah, I don't.
What is the essential definition of human? If we take DNA, you had literally that DNA was there. It wasn't your mom's and it wasn't your dad's.
It was mine.
It's unique to you, not to your parents, because it's a sequence made up of both, right? Okay, so it's definitely unique. It's definitely differentiated. Is it living? A lot of people go, when does life begin? Now this is turning into a discussion over clearly the origins of life, which gets very sensitive. Oh my God, this is a moral topic, right? Was your mom born with anything other than, pregnant with anything other than a human? Has any human woman been pregnant with any other species other than human?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Are you sure?
I'm
If
sure.
I call it
I'm
something
sure.
else, what if I decided to call it something else like a fetus? Does that change what you were?
No.
What does the word fetus mean?
Means human that hasn't been born yet.
Unborn.
Unborn
Or
human.
child, I think it means in Latin. I think that's, I keep looking it up and I get either unborn or I get child, and I'm not a Latin expert, so. Either way, that could apply to kittens. So, if human women are pregnant with fetuses, and kitty cats are pregnant with fetuses, then women are pregnant with cats. But no, that wouldn't follow, right? That's because it's not univocal. We're not talking about the same thing, right? We're using the same word with different meanings. You see why it's important to make sure we're univocal. So you believe you existed before you ever had, I know that, and that's odd to say, a heart. Your heart came later. Okay. I exist. I am, or I am AB, blood and guts, brain and body. That's an is of constitution, not an is of identity, right? I am human. Is that essential? Yes, right? Because if you're not human, then, although that could be debated. I wonder if God could change your species, now keep in mind, like is your soul distinctly a human soul that only works as a human, right? And then you take away that human essence and then all of a sudden, you're gone, right? That would be, interesting.
Mhm.
What else did you get? Did you get anything?
I put person.
Person, that's a big deal. What does it mean to be a person?
I think it's,
Is that the same thing as being human? Are all humans
think so.
persons?
I think so,
You think so?
yes.
Now, this is a debatable issue. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because, so for example, with slavery, not all humans were considered persons. You can see why they would say we don't want all humans to be persons, right? Because you got to treat persons as though they have rights, and not all humans. So, you know, think of Thomas Jefferson. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Let's think in terms of humans, right? All men are created equal with unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? We've all been, say it correctly. Let's not, skip some words. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equally and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, such as the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So if you're not a human, does it follow that you have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Well, first of all, let's start with, he didn't use the word human, did he? He used the word men. Does that mean if you're not a man, you don't have these rights? Or was he using the inclusive word, which meant all of humanity? Or was he using the legal term, only legal humans, such as persons? I know, but doesn't that, you can see how that could get very confusing, right? Because there are people out there who will still argue to this day, yes, this is a human, but they are not a person, therefore they don't have human rights in that regard. Can you imagine that? Okay. And so that's why we go, okay, we have two different words. We have the word person, and I'm going to say all humans are persons. Okay? All humans are persons. Some would say not all I would actually go even farther, not all persons are humans, because God, right, is not human, right? The Father is not human, but the Father is a person, right? Angels, I would argue, are persons, but not humans. Satan is a person, but not human. But I would say all humans are persons, but not all persons are humans. That's how we get theological philosophy going, okay, or philosophical theology, I should say. Okay. Now, but we can talk about the unborn, or we can talk about the really sick. And what about people in comas? Are they humans?
Yes.
They're still living. What about their rights? And you go, well, they don't have rights because they're in comas. Well, what's missing then? And people say, well, they're not persons anymore. Why are they not persons? Because they can't make certain choices, because they have a disability or whatnot, okay? So you see how philosophy is going to play out in these very touchy situations like women's rights, okay, or end of life rights, or the right to put grandma and grandpa to sleep, okay, when they've, when they can't make decisions for themselves and they're just burdening your mortgage payment, okay. So what else am I? Your person. What did you get, sir?
Male.
Male. Did you exist before you were a male?
Yes.
Now, of course, if we go with you, you say you existed, and this is before you had any genitalia. But you did have a DNA, and the DNA would just tend to dictate what you were going to be, correct? What that would be. So maybe maybe that's essential to you, right? At least physically in that regard, right? But what determined your DNA? That's what I want to know.
Your parents' DNA?
Yeah, but you got a mom and a dad. Which one determined which you were going to be?
Chromosome.
Neither.
Huh?
Neither of them.
Neither? Then what determined it? Did you make a decision beforehand? You went, okay, I think I'm going to go.
No, I believe God determined.
You believe God determined it. Okay. I mean, there's an interesting thing about DNA. J.P. Moreland mentioned this, that any individual piece of DNA is identical to the other pieces in a sense. They're not And so what makes, it's like a brick in a building. They're all the same size, shape, the DNA is DNA, right? What makes one go to a fingernail and what makes the other one go to an eyelash? What drives this? Keep in mind, I'm still asking what you are, okay? And that's the context of asking, what makes things, what drives your body to do what it does? Okay? What drives the DNA? Okay, what do you have over there? Remind me your name. Heidi? Eileen?
I just put human as well.
Human as well. Do you have an answer that's different than anybody else's? What else? Did you give anything else? So, as I asked you all these questions, now, I am human. Is that an essential or an accidental predicate, you think? Would you lose who you are if you were non-human? Would you exist if you were, if your humanity was stripped? Would there be anything, what would be left to still have you there? It's kind of like taking the shape from the triangle. Okay? If that makes sense. Now you have accidental properties. Now what if you said, who's Dr. Holzer? Well, he's the doctor in charge of my class, teaching that class. Is that an accidental predicate or an essential predicate? I hope it's an accidental predicate. Why? Because what if I got fired?
Yeah.
Then I'd cease to exist. Which, by the way, some people would be happy with that. Okay? Trust me, I've had enough conversations in life to know that some people would go, yeah. You know. Okay, so the distinction is, you know, between accidental. If I lose my hair, obviously that's accidental. He's a 5'10", white-ish guy with brown hair and wearing the today tannish blazer. I'm gonna go home and change. This thing comes off, t-shirt goes on, shorts go on, hair's gonna fall out, change jobs eventually, maybe, maybe not, who knows. Doesn't change who I am, does it? Which brings me to the next question. Are you the same person you were yesterday? Does anybody believe that they are? None of you. Or are you just so deep in thought? I'll be very specific. Are you the same person you were yesterday?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, I think you're correct on that. But what makes you the same as you were yesterday?
I have the same thoughts as I did yesterday.
Same thoughts? Oh, come on now. Have you ever changed your mind about anything?
Yes.
Does that mean you're different?
Yes.
You're a different human?
Sometimes I feel different if I
Well, you feel
change my
differently,
thoughts.
certainly. But does that make you different?
Physically?
Well, no, maybe not even physically. I
Well,
mean, you part your hair differently on it, what, day to day. Wouldn't say you're different. Let me give you here. Let me bring this home to a more practical sense. Let's pretend you go to jail, okay? And so you go to jail, and they're gonna put you in there for 10 years. And you're in there a couple days, and then you call the warden. You say, "Look, the person that you put in jail a year ago doesn't exist anymore." He goes, "She doesn't?" You're like, "No. I'm different than that person. I'm not her." And he goes, "What do you mean?" And you say, "Well, I changed my mind. I have different thoughts now. I think differently." Does that make you different? Should we let you out of jail?
well, no, obviously not in that case, but I'm saying you can be different in, like, emotionally.
So those are accidental predicates, right?
Yes.
Because your emotions come and go. Would you agree?
Yes.
I get emotional sometimes. My emotions are, and sometimes like, and, you know, and doesn't mean I'm the guy having that emotion. I'm the emotional guy. But I am not identical to the emotion that comes and goes. The accidental predicate is the emotion that leaves or comes, and that doesn't make me a different person. That makes me a person with a different emotion. It's kind of like saying a car with a different paint job, if that makes sense, right? Now, I want to know what's essential to you, that if it is gone, so too are you. You know, are you the same person we put in jail 10 years ago, let's say? You may have different thoughts, but are you different? Or are you just the same person with different thoughts?
I guess physically you could probably be the same, but
Actually, I wonder if you could be physically the same too. They suggest after 7 years, we've replaced every single cell in our body. You've heard that, right? That my hands are different. They may look the same, right? Maybe a little older looking. Well, because they're different, because they're made from different material now, different cells. Because all the cells have died, fallen off, been replaced. All the bones inside me have been replaced. You've heard this? I'm not alone, right? Has anybody not heard this? Or really? This is the first time you ever heard this?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, every 7 years, all your cells replace. I mean, cells have a lifespan, right? And they die and get replaced. And so they say in a span of about 7 years, every cell you have right now will be gone and replaced, including in your brain. So in a sense, you'll have a new brain. There will be another brain. Does that mean you are a different human? Now, I could say person too. Either way. Does that mean you are different? You have a different, you look older. But are those accidental properties, or are they essential to who you are? They're still human, right? There's still a human there. But what about you that makes you you? Not just human, but what makes you Eileen? Right? 10 years. I mean, think about all the criminals we should let out of jail if they're different. It's a question about sameness through change. Write that down. Sameness through change. What makes you the same today that you were yesterday, even if you change your mind? Look, I was a lot different as a younger kid than I am now. Like some of the things I did when I was like, I don't know, anywhere between 11 and 19. Lots and lots of fun and lots of adventure, okay? But if you ask my opinion, I would not do a lot of the things back then that I would have done it differently. How's that? Okay? Some of the things I look at and I go, ugh, right? Have you ever done that? How many of you ever thought, if I could only go back to high school, I'd do it differently? No, you wouldn't. And if you would, you'd be bored, right? You'd be like, yeah, of course, I'm an adult now going back to high school. Of course, I'm not going to want to hang out with those guys. You know? Because they're high schoolers. It doesn't make you different it makes you different in one sense. You have different thoughts. But are you the same, but with different thoughts? Or are you those thoughts? Some people believe you're just nothing more than your thoughts. And if you're nothing more than your thoughts, the thoughts are gone, so too are you. Right? A couple movies I'll suggest. One, in fact, I'm just going to suggest one to start with. It's a fun one too. It's not even, it's semi-deep, but it's mostly fun. It's called The Sixth Day, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's where that famous line, "Get that chapter," comes from, okay? Watch it. Who's not seen it? Who's seen it? Who's heard of it? Who's not? You've seen it, right? You've not seen it? Cloning. Brings up the idea of cloning. Can they clone another one of you? Put your memories in, like on a disk, and then put them in you or in the other clone, and is that you? Or are they different?
They're different.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
But they're very same. They're both human.
Very similar.
Really?
They're not the same.
They have the same beliefs, same memories.
They have the same memories, might not have the same beliefs.
Sure they do. Why wouldn't they? You just injected all of the mental.
They could develop different beliefs.
Well, that's
based
from
on
that point on.
Yeah.
But anybody could do that. Okay, I'm saying, let's just say one dies, you put it in next, is it the same? It's the same memories, the same beliefs, right? Same desires, or is it the same person? No. You're saying no. So it's a good movie, watch it because it's fun. Okay, but it brings up that question if that's what we are, our mental life. All right, we got 2 minutes left. We went through the 5 is, 2 definition types. What were the definition types? Nominal, which talks about nothing more than the word, not the actual definition. We talked about the essential, which is the essential, what has to be there, right? We use the word univocal, meaning we want to use the same definition for the same term, right? Same object, same, make sure they mean the same thing when we're talking. Doesn't mean we can't disagree about things. It just means that when we do, we want to be able to talk about the same object, and we clear things up by using the same terms in the same way, okay? We talked about, I gave you the 3 options of metaphysics. So you guys, what do you think? Is that pretty good stuff today? Asked you some deep questions, who you are. I'm going to put up the other video as soon as I can, very soon, because it has some very deep questions about existence, okay? And it talks a lot about it. So you guys will make sure you get it, because there'll be a lot of test questions on it. So if you'd like, you could hit pause or stop on that.